ask you the question. How many of us in here identify as Gen Z? 3, 2, 1. Well, that's a lot of Gen Z. So, if you clap, then congratulations, I have a good news for you. You are a part of 2.4 billion people in this world. But at the same time, I also have a bad news for us. Gen Z seems to be getting a lot of hate lately. And I don't have any hard data on this one, but it feels like everyone just has something to say about Gen Z nowadays. You can see from all the discussions, Gen Z is soft. Gen Z is hated at the workplace. Gen Z makes pretty difficult employees. Gen Z and their attitude. Why is everyone so judgmental of Gen Z? And I hate Gen Z. For Gen Z, it feels like we might be the most hated generation in our time. But before any generational backlash come my way, I just have to give you a very brief disclaimer. I understand that there are always two sides to the story. And for Gen Z, maybe we have done questionable things that pisses other people off. However, I still think that it doesn't justify the harsh criticism or the unfair labeling that Gen Z has been getting. Generational labeling is nothing new at all, but for Gen Z, we are collecting new labels, like collecting Pokemon cards. Now, we have digital natives. I mean, this is quite fair. Entrepreneurial, this might be a compliment actually, but hold on. We also got stuff like this. Lazy. Gen Z is lazy at the workplace. They don't want to do work anyway, but still, there are more labels to come with Gen Z. Gen Z is the anxious generation. Gen Z is miserable. And the latest one, Gen Z is weak. Zoomers are too weak. They are born in such a privileged time, and yet they still find a reason to hate about everything and anything. They complain about everything. And people don't understand why Gen Z have to go and heal themselves, whereas there's nothing that's hurting them. Now, I cannot answer if Gen Z is exactly like that, but today I'm gonna give you some analysis and some perspectives on the current situation of Gen Z worldwide and also in Vietnam. With that said, I just have to give another disclaimer, all right? Just bear with me. Now, every time that I refer to any generational terms like Gen Z or the past generations, please know that I understand that there is a spectrum of people within that. Not everyone from the same generation is going to be the same or they're going to have the same perspectives, but for lack of a better way to put it, I will be using these terms while acknowledging the nuance. And in such limited time, I will probably miss some points, so if you have any debate, respectfully, I'm all ears, all right? Now let's start with the main topic. Beyond the label, and I should correct myself right here, labels, not just one labels, all right? And understanding Gen Z, and you can quote me on this one, maybe we are not as problematic as you might think. We're just a little bit troubled. And for anyone out there who doesn't know me, hi, my name is Bao Ngoc, Miss Intercontinental, and I also work for youth and sustainability advocacy. And I'm also a Gen Z. So I was born in 2001. I have my birth certificate, if you guys don't believe me. Now, another interactive question, all right? Do you understand Gen Z? And for the Gen Zers, clap if you think you understand yourself or your generation. 3, 2, 1. That is a very humble clap. However, I'm gonna help you to discover more about Gen Z. So to understand Gen Z, you have to understand the context that they were born into. So first, we have digitalization. Gen Z is the first generation to be digital natives. So we were born in a very digital-heavy world. Here, you can see the word before the 2000 and after the 2000s was two different places. And for Gen Z, we were born right in the transition, so the late 90s and the 2000s. So if you take a look at this graph right here, before the year 2000, we still have the internet. We still have home entertainments like tapes and DVDs. We still have cell phones and computers. But overall, after the year 2000, the internet exploded. And it became not just a luxury, but a necessity and a very essential part of life. Now, I still remember very vividly the first time that I got my Facebook account and posting my first meme on Facebook. But I don't know if anyone in this room still remember another very popular social media in the 2010 called Zingme. Now, my name on Zingme was something down the line of the happy girl, ha 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 ha. So in Vietnamese, originally it was cô gái vui vẻ, ha 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 ha. And I used that account for, I guess, 4 years, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was so deep, and now I look back at it, I'm like, it's not that deep, bro. No. But anyway, we all have that phase. Another question. Do you know what happened in 2007 that is worth mentioning in the context of digitalization? So in 2007, we witnessed a transition, and that is the rise of the iPhones. Well, iPhones were not the first smartphones ever, but they paved the way for the population of today's smartphones. And as everyone knows, nowadays, the smartphones has transformed the way that we communicate, transformed almost every aspect of life. No longer the days of going to the store and buying DVDs or tapes. We have access to what? To Netflix, to YouTube, to Instagram Reels, or to TikTok. So endless content at our fingertips. Now, we are witnessing the next big thing. In 3, 2, 1, clap if your answer was artificial intelligence when you see this question, okay? 3, 2, 1. Yes, artificial intelligence. AI models like ChatGPT or Gemini are evolving very rapidly and way faster than an average user can ever grasp. I don't really know how to use ChatGPT or Gemini, besides writing very basic prompts. But artificial intelligence, or AI, is our future right now. And again, just like how the smartphone transformed every aspect of life, artificial intelligence will be the next big thing. And you guys, as Gen Z, will want it, or if you don't want it, you still have to learn how to navigate this tech. But there's another big thing that is worth mentioning in the context of Gen Z. The economy. And this is not a comparison of whether who have it worse, because every generation, they have their own struggles economically or socially. But for the sake of this speech, I will try to mention very, very briefly about the economic concerns that is, dragging Gen Z. Now, as Gen Z, most of Gen Z nowadays, maybe they are in their early 20s, so they have been living throughout 2 decades of life. And throughout the 2 decades, we have also witnessed 2 global financial crises. The first financial crisis happened in 2008. Secondly, the COVID-19 pandemic. If you ask 10 random people, I bet that 10 out of 10 will actually start to acknowledge or to complain about the very slow pace of the economy nowadays. In fact, the post-pandemic downturn and recovery are very painful and they are very slow, but this is what we have to work through. And you can see, because of the economic crisis right here, we are really starting to see some prevailing impacts. Now, Gen Z is facing with the hardships of grappling with shrinking jobs markets. So we are facing with a lot of issues. For example, rising educational costs and struggling to find employment, or housing crisis, housing price. You can see right here, I have involved some graphs and statistics, but I'm going to tell you very briefly that nowadays the gap between our average income and the housing price is actually very huge compared to what was in the past. And it's so hard for Gen Z nowadays to start to save up because of the impact of overconsumption and our lifestyles. So there are a lot of challenges in saving, and financially, maybe Gen Z is struggling a bit. Wait, before we move on to the next slide, I just have something to discuss. So consider this. Do you remember the traditional advice from your parents? So the traditional advice for all of us Gen Zers was to study hard, to get a stable job, a 9-to-5 job, to commit with that job, and then work tirelessly until you reach your late 30s or 40s, and maybe you will be probably you will be able to buy a house. Nowadays, you might study just as hard, you might work tirelessly and get overworked by the capitalist economy. And you might work until you just expire from this word. But it's really unfortunate to tell you that there's a high chance that you won't be able to afford a house, at least in the cities, like Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi. But it's the reality. And I don't want to paint a daunting picture, but awareness is always key to our issues. So with all of this considered, we are also dealing with some micro issues. Now, in the micro setting, we have some of our very distinctive challenges of this generation. First of all, social comparison. Gen Z nowadays are facing a very immense pressure to succeed and to have the perfect life. Now, for me personally, as somewhat a public figure, I also have to maintain somewhat perfect image. And as a Gen Zer, I can see how this is getting worse for you guys and for myself as well. Well, I just have to say that facing expectations is nothing new for any generation. But for Gen Z, because of digitalization, this is getting worse and worse. Now, whenever we try to escape this word and scroll a bit on our phones, we will be bombarded with the type of content that paint the perfect image, the perfect picture, how to have the perfect life, how to have the perfect score, how to buy a house and retire early. And to be honest, I'm also contributing to that facade. Sometimes, I don't want to, because of all of those that has been happening, I don't really want you to see my vulnerable side or the side where I'm not so happy and all glamorous. So you really have to understand that this is a huge problem for us all. Now, moving on. Ironically, as we have the access to unlimited amount of information, it's becoming harder for us to navigate and to know what to believe, especially in nowadays social media settings. Facts, opinions can turn to facts overnight, and now you're left wondering, how do I know if this is true? And when you don't know what to believe in, you don't know what to follow. You don't know who to follow. And suddenly, you're left there, lacking a sense of purpose. And to be honest, I feel like lack of purpose is one of the scariest things that you can ever experience in life. It leaves you in the status of not knowing what to do and why are you even living. The last thing that I want to mention in the microenvironment is loneliness. Nowadays, not just because digitalization, it's not just because of your phones, but because of social comparison, because of lack of purpose, because of the hardship financially, and also the hardship, the newly found impacts of digitalization. You can really see how people are less motivated to build communities or to connect with each other. As Gen Z, we crave quality connections, but in nowadays settings, it's very challenging to do so. So now, again, all of these issues that I mentioned is not to compare whether Gen Z has it worse than other generations, but this is for awareness and for discussion and for recognizing that Gen Z is facing very unique challenges, and it's not like the others. So please stop comparing and start acknowledging how we can address this effectively. With all of this said, I just have to ask you one question, all right? Gen Z, are you okay? Why am I just hearing no? All right, well now, in 3, 2, 1, clap if you are not okay or not doing well mentally, okay? 3, 2, 1. I just want to leave this room right now because this is so daunting right now. I didn't expect you guys to all clap like that. Now, it's a good thing that we are talking openly about mental health, remember that? But, you know, I was expecting that maybe my forecast was wrong or the research was wrong, but turned out it's right. Gen Z is not doing well mentally, you guys. 3 out of 5 Gen Zers reported feeling nervous, anxious, on edge, and over half of Gen Zers know someone battling depressions. Any one of you here know someone who is battling depression or is battling with depressions yourself? 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Now, whether you clap or whether you didn't, please know that we are in this together. And you are strong for being here and to acknowledge that. Now, for the context in Vietnam, sadly, it's nothing different. 15 million people in Vietnam are diagnosed with mental disorders. And among that, 3 million are children. So almost 15% of the Vietnamese population are struggling mentally, and more than 3 million of them are children, like they're not even growing yet. And here's the kicker. Only roughly 1 to 1/3 of the people who is struggling with mental disorders or have depressions actually get the help that they need. Now, again, let's wrap this up. So the macro environment, we have the impact of digitalization. We have very specific and unique economic challenges. And Gen Z is also dealing with newly found, not newly found issues, but very critical issues like social comparison, lack of purpose, or mental well-being, and also loneliness. With all of this considered, we are living a very distinctive life. And now, until now, with what you have learned, please help me answer the question. Here. Gen Z, are we really weak? But whatever is your answer, I think today the point of this speech is to recognize the uniqueness of every generation and how they are overcoming their own very distinctive challenge. Now, when I told you that Gen Z might be the most hated generation of this time, is the actual truth. And sadly, this applies to every generation. It seems like as a generation arises, we're gonna have something to say about them. So remember the time of the millennials. Boomers had something to say about them. And then the millennials had something to say about Gen Z. And then millennials and boomers find common ground and talk about Gen Z. And for Gen Z, we are not so innocent either. We also have a lot to complain about millennials. Generation Alpha is actually expecting some hate from Gen Z, and sadly, it's already happening, you guys. So with all of this drama, can we just hit mute with the generational hate and start asking the question, why? Instead of calling generation by label, why don't we start asking a very simple question of why? Why is this happening? Why are they struggling so hard? Why am I judging, even though that I'm not living the same life, going through the same struggles that they are going through? Why don't I listen and try to be a part of the solution and not a part of their issue? At the end of the day, why can't we recognize the good side and the good things of every generation? Why can't we acknowledge the resilience of Gen Z, how they are overcoming their very specific challenges, and while making a very good impact in the world? Yes, Gen Z? Gen Z, don't disregard ourselves, all right? We are the unafraid generation. We talk about mental health openly, and that is so critical in the current settings where everything is so complex. We are building a support system. Yes, we might be the anxious generation, but that is because we care enough to heal and to move on from our trauma and not passing down the trauma to all the generations. I'm talking to you, Gen Alpha. Gen Z is voicing their concerns for the newly found impact of digitalization, of economic changes. Gen Z is the Y generation. Yes, it's annoying that we ask questions about everything, but because of that, we know what to believe in, and we fight for what is right. We might be a messy work in progress, but that is why we need the help from all the generations, the ones who have lived life longer than us. Generation Z, so far, the biggest lesson you can take from this talk is that, remember, we are more than just the labels. We are the dreamers. We are the visionaries, the agents of change. That's what we are. The world is out to shape, and I know it's a little bit complex, but together we will navigate. We're just young adults trying to figure out this life, and we're here for each other. All right? So, other generations, please don't hate on us, don't write us off, and instead, support us, support Gen Z. Gen Z, this is gonna be the key to unlocking the power of Zoomers, of Generation Z, the generation that is changing the world one dream at a time. Thank you so much. Can I have a clap now? Yes, thank you.